915-544-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Definitely a lot to talk about today, even as we are, in that run-up to, and as much as I don't try to call my shots, boy, do I feel like I've been wrong about this one, and the idea of lead up to holidays being kind of slow news times. I mean, sure, we don't exactly have one of the major hard-hitting interviews today. We're talking about the turkey trot today with our interview because we still like to talk about local things. But in the meantime, as we also have Austin Redfern joining us over on the social media, good afternoon and greetings to you as well. We got a lot of stuff going on. A just pre-Thanksgiving visit coming from the likely next Speaker of the House here to the Borderland, and some very significant statements being made when it comes to the future of border enforcement and security, or at the very least those heading the agencies involved with them, being made right here in the Borderland. Almost thought it was a file photo at first. Talking about Kevin McCarthy there, and currently the House Republican leader. And again, based on some of those preliminary and I guess not quite straw poll votes, very likely to become the next Speaker of the House, which, as much as that is talked about within just general leadership, legislative authority, I sometimes feel like we forget that third in line to the presidency. So yeah, that's also an important one that I try to keep at the back of my mind. As you also have Eric von Holstein Rathlow. Hello to you as well, doing with the waving today. And so some significant statements coming out again from current Rep. McCarthy over those and a whole lot more, and a lot more action going on in our area as well, including, as we have definitely been cranking up in my neck of the woods, those temperatures, at least trying to keep the furnace on. I mean, there's more action happening out of City Council when it comes to another Texas gas rate increase. Yes, those are one of those things that happens periodically. We'll see what happens with this one here. A little bit more detail also coming out about some of those city bonds and how some of them will specifically be used. Some more holiday information, but definitely more confusion coming out about the whole situation involving Title 42 and a whole lot more. And even some more details coming out about, well, what's happening a little bit more south of the border, and what actually some of the Mexican official response is, at the very least what can be gleaned from it, even if it's not totally clear what will be happening. So yeah, it's a busy lead up to the holiday here. Just as a programming reminder, because someone asked at this point yesterday, so I'll make that clear here. We will be with you tomorrow. Tomorrow will be part of our, free-for-all show. So we're calling it Wordy Wednesday. We're trying that one out anyway, meaning that, it'll be our open line show for the week, and we'll be taking all that on. So if you got any of those real burning questions, comments, etc. about the stuff that isn't happening right here, doesn't affect us directly in the Borderland, don't worry, it's happening before you know it. And Eric von Holstein Rathlow saying Title 42 confusion. Everything the Biden administration does is confused. Well, there's some specific numbers, including some of those local nonprofits actually gleaning out the immediate impact, I guess would be the best way to put it, that happened in this yes but no, but maybe later kind of situation that happened with those orders coming out of federal courts and the judges making them. And I mean, about 900 is marked by, I believe it was a Hope Border Institute, actually kind of the stopping and starting and attempting crossings in the wake of that, thinking that things had changed when they hadn't really. Like I said, confusion is kind of the best short way to put it. But I mean, there's a whole lot of other adjectives, including more than a couple I can't use on the radio, that could be used to describe this situation. But so that's just a little bit what's going on, and I don't want to mean to gloss over it. Yes, we're talking about the turkey trot, some of those pre-Thanksgiving, immediately, well, technically on Thanksgiving, but pre-Thanksgiving meal for most people, festivities and traditions going on, and the kind of events that will be happening a lot more through kind of the rest of the season here. So again, a mixed and interesting show for you, trying to keep it as much as possible, but still plenty going on. I've long had the contention that we will never run it out of things to talk about that affect us here in the Borderland. And well, this just kind of bears it out and would say adds only more onto it here. And Loop and I was saying there is no confusion. It is blatant flouting of law. Again, the problem there is that this isn't law. at the very least talking about Title 42 itself. Title 42, the reason it's put that way and doesn't have one of those long and fancy names, okay, here's a kind of a shorthand that probably doesn't work in every circumstance, but if you have a really short, like Title 42 or a subsection something, or something that doesn't have a very long and involved title ending in act, like we got the Inflation Reduction Act, or the Build Back Better, or it's wanting to be the Build Back Better, and a couple of things like that. And yeah, Eric von Holstein-Rathlow with a couple of colorful metaphors coming to mind here. Oh, the things I can't say. That's why I've considered having a podcast, but do they do NC-17 podcasts? Probably, but I would imagine that they aren't that well distributed. Let's just put it that way. Any case, yeah, the problem with this whole Title 42 thing is if you're mad about it going away, happy about it going away, the point of the problem is that it's policy. It is a directive being put out by the executive branch, of course, led by the White House, and not actually law. That's, yeah, geez, if you want to point to one thing, it's never usually an easy way to do it within government, legal issues, etc. So you can't really point to, there's the one problem. We get rid of that and everything's solved. I mean, sure, there's plenty of people who say that that's the factor here, but more often than not, they're also trying to sell you something or like get your donation. So grain/boulder of salt there. But when it comes to this, again, one of the big problems with immigration, border security, these issues that we keep running bald-faced into, Flacco and Mena saying that podcasts aren't FCC regulated. You are correct, but well, like we're getting into censorship questions. Okay, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show here, because I don't know if you all have noticed. I've noticed a change over on social media in a few ways, in even just like, it's accelerated in the last 6 months, where even in videos, like the one that really kind of gobsmacked me is in some of those videos where, I mean, it's like a clip from a movie scene, and now they're censoring out someone's cleavage in order to manipulate the algorithm better. Like, I am just seeing the trends and not really sure what, but the point is that even if it's not regulated or required, it doesn't mean anyone will hear. That's why I said distribution, not legality of it. Okay, well, that's another point for a later time here. In any case, getting back to the idea of the immigration situation and the law, and Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying that President Trump's administration wasn't confused when it came to enforcing Title 42. But again, we're talking about the administration that enacted that policy. But again, the point I'm trying to get to here is that it's not law. I mean, sure, it follows legal processes, and I'm not saying it's illegal by juxtaposition, but very specifically, it is a decision and an enforcement order coming out of the executive branch and not something passed by the legislature. And again, as much as it's almost, it's a folly to try and point to one problem here, I'd be hard-pressed to find a more significant one than the complete reluctance of any wave of control that has come through Congress to pass meaningful new legislation whenever it comes to immigration, border security in any direction. This is not they didn't live up to their promises in one left or right side of the aisle, but all of them. There has not been significant legislation. Like, you practically have to go back to Reagan to find more that has happened in terms of changes to law. Enforcement, policies, sure. That's one of the things that's kind of those confusing parts when it comes to actually like immigration courts and immigration law, is that they're not judicial branch courts. I mean, sure, they have the name, they're called courts, and they're called judges, the ones that preside over them, but they're part of the executive branch, and therefore literally not judicial system decisions being made. So the enforcement, the policies being put there, I guess what I'm trying to come down to is it's been left up to each administration to put their stamp on it or really re-envision how it works. And that's how you ended up getting things like DACA and then the court cases against it. And then we have Title 42 or MPP and the court cases against it. Like, I'm not calling it a simple process, but I'm calling it a frustrating one, because the fact of the matter is that since we haven't had new laws passed, again, let's define policy and law. Policy comes out of law, and in the basically lack of new laws being passed to reflect on what is the situation actually at hand, is often then left up to interpretation. That's one of the things, and one of the things that I've mentioned previously been looking at as we look at this change in Congress that is coming, the Congressional Review Act, any of those. Sure, the lame duck session that's going on right now is looking to squeeze a few more things in. This will probably be a battle of the priorities more than anything else to see what will actually win out and to get action on, because sure, there's a willpower at play here, but there's still a limited amount of time, and not everything can actually get put through, particularly when we start getting into the chicanery that can happen with Congress. Whole another show there. But agencies, agencies making decisions and doing so within essentially the last 90 days of any term of office, whether it be presidential or even congressional, that is then subject to review by the incoming. So we'll see if anything happens that way. And of course, this doesn't quite do it that way because it's not a individual different department making these decisions, but it's going to be complicated. Let's just put it that way. And so I've talked straight through and even just discussing some of the nature of the situation and through this first segment here, and I've barely even begun to touch on, besides mentioning the fact that, yeah, Kevin McCarthy was in town, and he has a lot to say when it comes to those in charge of the border security and immigration efforts, particularly present in our area, as he was here and had some, let's just call it interesting back and forth. So tell you what, we're going to talk more about that next segment and save our interview for the segment after that. So you all tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in on that. Break some more of those down, as well as just more talk about the situations affecting us here. It's a Tuesday, holiday week, and yet we're cramming it in. Stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash involving a couple of vehicles on Gateway West before Airway at Westmoreland is blocking the right turn only lane. In the lower valley, still a lot of slowing and just stop traffic with 15-minute delays. 375 southbound at North Loop Drive. Slow traffic on Global Reach with 21-minute delays from the Spur down to Montana, and an injury accident on Trowbridge eastbound after Reynolds at Chelsea. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Thanksgiving goes back to our country's earliest roots, and we still celebrate today thanks to Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt. But do you know the true story of the first Thanksgiving? Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Most of the time, traffic is pretty good. But there are times when traffic can be pretty bad. No, I mean like really bad. Almost. But more like an asteroid's gonna hit the city and everyone's trying to get out of town at once and nobody's car is moving and people are running down the highway clutching their kids and whatever belongings they can grab. Yep, now you got it. It's times like these you need your severe traffic station. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now, so do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Education doesn't just take place in the classroom. There are many ways for children of all ages to learn about sustainability and environmental education at home. Visit iHeartRadio.com/Earth for a list of resources, activity guides, and toolkits that are educational and fun for the whole family. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
With an open channel,
I guess just try to keep channels open.
We welcome open-minded individuals.
I try to keep an open mind to all issues.
With open arms.
I think we need to always have our eyes open.
For open conversation. And when you open the iHeartRadio app, you open a whole new world. Wherever you are.
What should America do about immigration crisis?
I guess open the borders, but at the same time, check everyone that's coming in.
Open the gates.
A free download in the App Store or at ktsmradio.com.
It's easy to get wrapped up in the spirit of giving, but you might be giving away more than you want. During the holidays, more shopping online means more exposed personal information. But LifeLock by Norton has identity theft protection all wrapped up. And if you become a victim, they work to fix it with you. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but you can save up to 25% off your first year right now. 1-800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock, or lifelock.com, promo code BECK for 25% off.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thank you all for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of comments coming in there, people tuning in, chiming in, adding their 2 cents so far. That's one of the better ways you can do so at this point during the program. Phone lines open a little bit later, as we usually do. But then, of course, those dropping those likes and reacts that we do appreciate. Not showing it so at the moment here, but okay, there we go. Amber Banda, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. Do appreciate that. Again, if you appreciate the ability to talk about these things, maybe not liking every subject, Lord knows I don't, but we're still going to talk about it and try to find our way through it as best we can. If you appreciate that, drop those likes, those reacts, those shares. Tell a friend, subscribe. I don't think we have a subscription. If you got us on your radio, that's the right place for you to be, or wherever works for you here on all those social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch that we're up on these days. In any case, a lot of comments coming in about the immigration situations. Interesting one from Eric von Holstein-Rathel right now, saying that... moving along fastly here, saying, like to see a return to our immigration laws in the 1960s. The no social services. You had to have a sponsor and a marketable skill to support your family, prove you wouldn't be a burden on taxpayers, and no criminal record for your home country, among other things. I mean, I think a retrospective is more than a little bit of a focus that comes up sometimes about how things used to be. But of course, situations have continued to change here. Sponsors, have not been a thing for a minute. As much as that's a phrase still used, it's more of a legacy phrase than necessarily one actually implemented in any kind of way, because even those going somewhere, they're sometimes called sponsors, but it's not someone who signed up in order to bring someone here. It's often that's where a support network might exist for someone. Again, that's part of the reason that we've seen the recent difficulties and situations kind of starting overall globally, but in recent times of the issues we're seeing with the Venezuelan population. And some of the other comments coming in here, Louis Panado, again, focus on those laws, saying laws work very well. That's why our borders are being overrun and our prisons are at capacity. Think you might be a little bit confused about, and maybe you're talking about it separately, because the prisons have been at capacity for a while now, and there's maybe some different legal issues. But when it comes to the borders themselves and the issues we're seeing, let's just talk about our sector here for the most part. We are continuing to see an increase. Again, a little bit hard to point out to exactly what's going on within this week, but week over week from Abe said he's still tracking some of those data points there from their migrant crisis dashboard, elpaso.texas.gov/migrant-crisis. We're well on our way to seeing another big week in terms of community releases, after we are not quite at a high water mark, but approaching it when it came to encounters, CBP 7-day average. So busing still not happening for the moment, but some of those discussions we were talking about previously, just earlier this week, even from City Council, potentially bringing it back up. And so the Ted Core is also on the idea of the laws here, why it's so important to pass a new law when current law is not really being enforced. Again, there's not necessarily sure, there are sometimes we're ignoring this law, we're choosing not to prosecute, those kind of decisions being made. But really, there just hasn't been new law. So it's a little bit even hard to say that between administrations, whether the tack taken by them was not enforcing or against the law, because it's all philosophy, basically, what it comes down to it lately here. And Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying, increasingly accurately earlier, our legislature on both sides have no desire to make meaningful immigration laws, and if it did, it would take away something to campaign on. That's something we brought up previously. It's really hard to convince people to stay mad if you solve their issue, I guess is another way to put it. And Juan Carlos Escobar Lazo, JC for short, I know you prefer, saying that right about policy, immigration law has been used and abused and circumvented for at least the last 24 years. I think you meant there via policy. Immigration law, as it is written, will work if administration would stop using it as a political tool. So, yeah, there's a lot on it. And Maria Kalman actually agreeing with that. Okay, Eric von Holstein-Rathlow mentioning that there is a need to have a work sponsor receive a worker's visa. But let's just say that some of the local situations we've been talking about, the term sponsor has been not exactly applied in the same kind of circumstance. I'll say that. Maria Kalman saying as well, there's a stalemate in D.C. regarding the immigration situation. The other side willing to deviate from their stance. Senator Schumer proclaimed that Democrats want citizenship given to all. This is not supported by most. Republicans oppose blanket amnesty, so no progress is made. Yeah, that's kind of the juxtaposition. Honestly, the way I kind of globally see it is that left side, Democrats in general, have been more focused on immigration reform. That has been their, for at least this issue, tentpole policy that everyone should be gathering around. Whereas on the Republican side of things, it's been primarily focused on border security and immigration enforcement, those aspects of it. And so as much as compromise is a four-letter word in D.C. these days, yeah, I'm not exactly holding my breath. But getting back to what actually was going on here today, again, Kevin McCarthy, the very likely next Speaker of the House. That vote hasn't exactly happened yet, but some of the initial votes showing that, yeah, he's got the bulk of support. So it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect that there will be a lot of falling in line behind him. In El Paso, earlier today, see the photos over there from the foothills of the Franklin Mountain at, I'm going to say that looks a lot like the main CBP station, and also, of course, seeing behind him there, if I'm not mistaken, the representative for the Texas 23rd Congressional District, Tony Gonzalez, if my eyes don't deceive me, also in town here. So one of the things he was very specifically stating is that, we're threatening to starting impeachment inquiry against the currently head of the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, calling on for him to resign or face an impeachment inquiry. And so I've got to be honest with you, not as familiar for what happens for the removal of a department head, a secretary, a cabinet secretary for that matter, because it just kind of hasn't happened in, I'm not quite willing to say my lifetime, but the time I've been paying attention to politics here, it's often been removed or resigned or dealt with within the administration. So someone out of the administration is, yeah, that's a one that I'm going to have to do my research on. I will be perfectly honest with you. So one of the interesting situations here is that he was visiting kind of underneath one of those big areas that has been a lot of the videos, including that flag video from week or two ago of the attempted crossing of the border by a protest that was stopped and repelled using, looked like a crowd control techniques, including pepper ball or pepper spray kind of stuff going on underneath. It's the Border Highway West Extension is technically what it is, that big raised road that goes beyond. It's connected through Spur 1966, and that's one of the easier ways to actually pinpoint where it is. And apparently, including reporting by, worked with him briefly when he was in town, Bill Malugin, saying that some can be heard yelling from across the border while the visit was happening there. So it's a interesting situation, but that actual talking about some of the initial priorities. I mean, there's been a lot being talked about for this impending takeover of Congress that will be happening as soon as, well, the next term is sworn in, essentially. Some of those representatives from our region, or the new ones, actually coming in and talking about their orientation going on in D.C., if you follow some of that. But as soon as that actually happens, this is one of the things that is going to be discussed here. And yes, it was Tony Gonzalez, representative for the Texas 23rd Congressional Districts there as well, saying they also attended a gathering of agents to thank them for their service with a Thanksgiving meal. There'll be more updates coming from our news partners there at KFOX 14 in the meantime. But so they're actually pushing for impeachment inquiries into Mayorkas. That'll be one that, again, someone correct me if I'm wrong, the actual trying to do that to a cabinet secretary has not happened terrifically recently. I got to say here. Again, please, someone point to another example because I'm coming up with a bit of a blank if something else similarly has. And Bedclore saying soon to be unemployed, Mayorkas, among other things, and some, again, a lot of focus on those kind of stuff. So I tell you, we got to take that next break now. At least mentioned it here, but there's more to talk about with Title 42. Going to this next break, we're going to be talking a little bit more about something happening locally. It's not all immigration, though. I feel like if there was like a pie chart to be seen about what we've talked about on the show, immigration would probably be one of the bigger slices, but there's also other stuff politically going on for the impending holiday here. So coming out of this break and be talking with Bill Kuhn, President and CEO of the YMCA of El Paso, on their upcoming and very much, it's a big holiday tradition around here. I've covered it a few times over the years, the turkey trot, so some of those details. So stay tuned, more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Phone lines open a little bit later. A lot of comments coming in on over the social media as we are in this short holiday week, at least when it comes to the broadcast anyway. But still more show to come up after this break, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hey everyone, this is Robert Olgain with your KFOX 14 News Update. El Paso District Attorney Yvonne Rosales could be suspended from her job until the outcome of a trial that seeks to remove her from office. That decision as to whether she should be temporarily suspended will take place at a court hearing on December 15th. A district judge says he'll determine whether Rosales should be temporarily suspended from office pending trial. If so, the appointment of another person to perform the duties of office will take place. Rosales is facing a civil trial that seeks to...
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On Loop 375 southbound in the Lower Valley from North Loop to Pan American, traffic still moving very slow, bumper to bumper with 15-minute delays. Gateway West before Airway at Westmoreland, an accident there is blocking the right turn only lane. On Trans Mountain near the Summit Pass after Tom Mays Access Road, a truck has some spilled cargo. It's blocking the right shoulder. And Global Reach still slow, half-hour delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. Our brief warm-up will leave us with a gorgeous day for your Wednesday to get those Thanksgiving preparations finished up or at least underway. As for those temperatures, we will be in the mid-60s for your Wednesday and then about a 10-degree drop for Thanksgiving as a cold front swings in. Look for increasing winds on Wednesday and possibly a chance for some winter-like weather overnight Thursday. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy and soon-to-be Speaker of the House was in El Paso today. McCarthy is calling for Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to resign, threatening an impeachment inquiry if Mayorkas doesn't. McCarthy with a House Republican delegation will investigate the actions of DHS pertaining to the migrant crisis here in the border. And as he toured the border, the camped-out migrants along the border in Juarez shouted across the way to the group. McCarthy will become the House Speaker when Republicans take over in January. And a manhole leaked wastewater along a roadway near UTEP and the U.S.-Mexico border yesterday. The wastewater ran down about half mile south of the Spur 1966 interchange to the Rio Grande, according to El Paso Water. Crews with the utility removed a large blockage from the wastewater line comprised of wipes, concrete, and rags. No direct blame was placed for the blockage, but recent posts on social media show people coming up through manholes downtown. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
We might have just witnessed the last cryptocurrency bull run, but not for Bitcoin, which I think will run again soon. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mom, Dad, let's talk. Before you know it, I'm out of here. I want to go to college or start a business. My allowance ain't gonna cut it. Ooh, sorry I said ain't.
The UNest app puts smart investing tools right in the palm of your hand. And with the UNest gifting link, friends and family can contribute to your child's account. Start investing today. Download the UNest app from the App Store or Google Play. See terms and conditions at unest.co. That's UNEST.co.
Holidays are a busy time. If you plan to go to someone's home this holiday season, please find out if there are firearms and if they are safely stored. Practicing safe gun storage protects our kids, prevents accidents, and keeps our firearms out of the hands of criminals.
To learn more about how to talk to others about safe gun storage, go to safegunstorage.texas.com for more information. And let's keep them safe, Texas. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Public Safety.
The future of audio is here, and it's always free. Listen to what you want whenever you want.
I'm going to do that right now.
Download our free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts.
iHeartRadio.
It's pro time because at Lowe's it's Provember. Over 30 days to save big. Full of more inventory, more Lowe's MVPs bonus points, and more of the deals you deserve. Because it always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. Save all Provember long. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Yeah, a lot of comments coming in there as well. Dropping those likes and reacts, among other things. Do appreciate James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Amber Banda, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. Hello, Ida, chiming in there as well. Also, some other comments, including Eric von Holstein-Rathlow, Eric McNabb, Ed Plor, Louis Pinato, and there are a lot of different points being made. Ted Kors as well. So, again, if you want to add your 2 cents, Richard Janasik over on the YouTube as well. Don't try to ignore the YouTube, but the likes don't come through that way. So you can always make your point there. And Mary come with an interesting point about the actual the El Paso sector in general, saying the media does not adequately explain the El Paso sector. It's a large area extending into the Albuquerque area, making enforcement difficult. Basically, it's like, the way I think of it is basically not quite to like Van Horn, not like a straight line down from Van Horn or anything, and then not quite all the way to Arizona kind of thing. So it's a lot of area, not quite like the Big Bend. That's its own enforcement area. And yeah, that would be insurmountable to add to any individuals already. It needs to be its own thing when I'm coming to there. But yeah, it's complicated. We'll certainly agree with you there, because of course it doesn't just stop at the border. It goes beyond it. Those checkpoints that we all go through anytime we're heading north, east, or west out of this area. Yeah, that's part of it. And so RJ actually coming with the answer that I had just found here, looking at the House, the history of the House, house.gov, and its history link there, that judges have been impeached recently, the most recent one in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Thomas Porteous Jr., a judge in the U.S. District Court, Eastern District of Louisiana, charges of making bribes and false statements under penalty of perjury. He was found guilty. So 2010 actually was that one. So yeah, it has happened. But last time, you're correct that the last time I could find an actual officer, civil officer, as it's mentioned under, if I'm not mistaken here, Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution, was, you got to go back quite a ways to actually find someone like that. U.S. Secretary of War, 1876. So I'm confident in saying not my lifetime. That's something, or anyone around here. If someone was alive when that happened, please call in. I would love to talk with you about it. But point is that this is going to be, if it moves forward, probably a weirder one than we might be used to. In any case, you guys do have other interviews and other things going on today besides the immigration situation. We're not ignoring that here, but want to mention some of the stuff that's coming up. Of course, we are impending for the holidays. The Christmas stuff has been in the stores ever since before Halloween at this point, so calling it the holiday season feels a little trite, but the real kickoff and when the holidays are happening, better way to put it, is coming up. And with Turkey Day impending on us, one of those big El Paso traditions that I've had the opportunity to, haven't had a chance to run in it yet, and probably need to do that whole Couch to 5K program before I really consider it for next year, but have been out there and seen the turkey trot kickoff. So I got to catch up over this weekend with Bill Kuhn, President and CEO of the YMCA of El Paso, to talk a little bit more about what it is and some of the details this year, as well as some considerations y'all might want to have. Still have a chance to get out there, but you might not get your t-shirt size, let's put it that way. So here is that interview. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Bill Kuhn, President and CEO of the YMCA of El Paso. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Andrew, for having me.
Absolutely happy to have you on to talk about some of the important things going on in and around our region. Of course, we've checked in with you all a couple of times about, like, summer programs and things like that. But as the seasons change, the important things coming up soon will be hopefully a very familiar one for people, or one that they may have done in the past, or maybe be considering for the first time. And okay, since we're on the cusp of Thanksgiving here, which came way too soon for my notice this year, I got to admit, of course, coming up along with that is the turkey trot, one of those big El Paso Thanksgiving traditions.
Absolutely. Our 46th annual turkey trot happens 7:15 Thanksgiving morning at the corner of Montana and St. Vrain.
Which, of course, right near the parade route and the things going on for Thanksgiving Day. And so a few things at this point, as we are not too far out from race day itself here, that if people are still wanting to get involved with it, they need to know here, because among other things, some costs are going slightly higher, and people need to register in person at this point, right?
That's right. Costs as of last Friday, our online registration closed because we did packet pickup yesterday and had a great turnout for packet pickup. We have over 1,200 people registered right now for this year's turkey trot. We're looking at breaking our record. We're estimating going over to 1,800 people coming in. So to register now, you have to come to 810 Wyoming from 10 to 4 every day, Monday through Wednesday. If you want to register, you register in person. You'll get your shirt, you'll get your bib, you'll get your backpack, your medal, the whole 9 yards, but you have to show up in person to register. We're so close to the race that the back office administration and the bibs has to be handled in person.
Absolutely there. So again, that address, 810 Wyoming, available from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., of course, up through Wednesday, because of course Thursday is Turkey Day here. So just in case there's someone out there that has no idea what we're talking about, the turkey trot should be decently self-explanatory here. But for someone who may not have heard about this or never really looked into what is the turkey trot?
For 46 years, we've been gathering our families together before the parade, and about 15 people or less come in and do the turkey trot. It's a 5K time run, but you don't have to be timed. You can take your time at it. Also a 1K fun walk Thanksgiving morning. So we encourage you to come down and do that with your family and burn off the calories before you go gorge yourself with the turkey, that afternoon. So it is a fun run. It's a fundraiser for the YMCA. We'll have online registrations this year. When you come across the finish line, you'll get a text to say, this is your time, and the whole 9 yards, which is kind of cool. Everyone wants to know what their time is and what place they got. And so when they go across the finish line, a few seconds later, they'll get a text knowing what's going on.
Interesting. So new technology being deployed this year. That's very interesting to see as well. And of course, if people want to find information on this, again, they can't register online anymore, but they can still find y'all over at elpasoymca.org. But again, to register at this point, they need to show up in person at 810 Wyoming, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. through the day before race day, Wednesday of this coming week here. So, of course, you're mentioning that this is going to be, you're expecting kind of a blockbuster event this year. I mean, this has always been a tradition in its own right, but particularly with stuff kind of happening again or opening back up here. I mean, sure, things have been progressing for a while now when it comes to restrictions and anything coming out of the pandemic, but it seems like people are very hungry, just no pun intended, for this kind of thing.
They're very hungry. Last year, COVID year was our lowest year. We had a little over 200 that they could do in their own neighborhoods. Last year, 2021, we almost had 1,600 runners. And so by the increase of registration right now, we've increased our orders for t-shirt and bibs and the whole 9 yards because of just a response for this year's turkey trot. People are more comfortable getting out. Right now, the weather forecast looks wonderful. It's going to be a little cool, but runners love it a little cool. But no rain, no snow that morning, which is the first time in 2 years that we haven't had rain or snow. So that's also a good thing. It's going to be a great morning to come out and be a part of the turkey trot.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Bill Kuhn, President and CEO of the YMCA of El Paso. Again, if you want to find out any details, information, even though online registration is closed for this event, elpasoymca.org. But the race itself will be happening at the corner of St. Vrain and Montana. Actual address 801 Montana. And of course, kicking off there before race day, race morning at First Baptist Church from between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. to gather there, and then beginning at 7:15 sharp. And again, the cost to now register in person this week leading up to the race, it'll be $30 from there the 20th to the 23rd. And then will we be doing registrations day of race, or is that not going to be open this year?
We will, and it goes up another $5. So it'll be between 6 and 7 a.m. And guys, be there early, because at 7:15, I'm very, very particular on this. We start that race. And so from 6 to 7, $35 at First Baptist Church, and you can register the morning of. Good luck on getting your t-shirt size by that time or anything, because literally it's going to be whatever we have left.
Yeah, fair enough. This is one of those instances where making sure that you got what you need in hand and pre-registering is a very good idea. So when you're talking about the 5K actual race portion of it, or the 1 mile fun walk, what kind of route will that take?
You know, the route, it'll go down Montana towards Cotton, and the race will veer off on Williams up to Rio Grande. There's a fire station there, and we'll have our volunteers kind of directing people where to go. Go up to Rio Grande, take a right on Rio Grande, and they run to Rosedale, and then it's back the same exact route. So it's up there and back on that for the run. The walk is to Cotton and back, so it's a little over a mile. So it's really easy. In fact, we'll have signs and people there and turnaround points and water stations to help people along the way.
So there's not much you have to think about doing the race or the walk here, except getting through it. That's the important part at that point.
Absolutely. We have pro action coming out. So if somebody accidentally has an injury or something, we have people out there. We have, at the end of the race, we'll have bottled water, bananas, apples, and oranges for the runners. And of course, those that win prizes, the first overall male and female winners of the race will get a trophy, and then the age groups will get medals. And everybody that comes to Turkey Trot gets a medal. That's something that came out of COVID, is everybody really wants to have a medal that they participate in the Turkey Trot. So a very attractive medal this year with our logo on it, and everybody that registers will receive that medal.
Yeah, I feel like that's been a burgeoning trend for a while now when it comes to races or things like this, where even some of those online sign-up ones where they want something tangible, even if they're doing it on their own. But of course, this one back in person and back in the group and expecting some record numbers this year. So given some of those weather concerns here, what are some of the kind of like attire or at the very least footwear concerns that people should keep in mind?
Well, comfortable footwear, tennis shoes. It's going to be cool. I think the weather forecast is in the lower 30s. It's not going to be freezing, but it's going to be in the 30s right there. 7:15 in the morning. It's the sun. It's just coming up, so that's the coldest part of the day. But, runners know, you'll see people there in full coats walking up and down the routes, and people in their running gear, the shorts or the sweats or whatever, what comfortable. It's a 3-mile run, if you do the race. So it's 3 miles. So it's not a little course. So you'll go get warmed up when you start running that or walking that. So be prepared, be prepared to be in layers. So you can maybe take off layers as you're running or walking down the route.
And of course, this happening for this being the 46th YMCA Turkey Trot. I mean, what do you attribute to both the longevity of this kind of event and also the importance of it for the community?
You know what? Longevity, it's a community comes out and takes part of it. We got great sponsors like Westar, that's our title sponsor, our Paso Disposal and all. Those are great sponsors that we've carried on throughout the time. And without their help, this would be tougher to do. And we raise this money. It stays here in El Paso, which is the most important part. All the money raised stays here in El Paso and helps our community to get back in shape. COVID, we got a little lazy and we got a little more rounder, a little more fluffy. And we provide financial assistance for families and individuals that may need a little help defluffing theirself. Let's just put it like that, defluffing theirself, or after school programs or camp programs and things like that. So last year we provided almost $195,000 to 4,400 people. And that's where the proceeds of Turkey Trot goes.
Again, guest right now has been Bill Kuhn, President and CEO of the YMCA of El Paso. Want to find out any more details about what we are talking about, the upcoming 46th YMCA Turkey Trot happening, of course, Turkey Day, Thursday, November 24th, with the race starting at 7:15 a.m. sharp. Be there or be square or round, as we were talking about here. Again, you can find the details on that. Can't register online anymore. Have to register in person at 810 Wyoming. Not too far from there. But again, the details, El Paso YMCA.org. That's El Paso YMCA.org. And again, they got the 5K run and turkey trot, of course, and the 1 mile fun walk and all those details. Again, El Paso YMCA.org. So, Bill, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us and the audience about what's coming up, what they need to do about it, and the importance of it here today.
Hey, Andrew, thank you very much. And our saying this year is don't be a turkey and chicken out, run the turkey trot.
Again, thanks to Bill Kuhn for that. Here again, switching it up. It's one of those weeks, and we talk about the things that are coming up here. But of course, we'll be getting into that next break, and of course, opening up the phone lines as we do during this point of the program here. So if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still a lot of stop traffic in the lower valley on Loop 375 southbound from North Loop Drive down to Pan American. It's a 15-minute delay, mostly stop traffic there from an earlier accident. Gateway Boulevard westbound at Westmoreland, a crash there blocking the right turn only lane. Zaragoza at Sunfire, an accident reported, and an earlier crash still slowing traffic eastbound Trowbridge at Reynolds. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. This Black Friday, where do prices dropping mean upgrade your home shopping? Lowe's, actually. Black Friday is here. Save $1,179 on a Samsung bespoke laundry pair. Get the deals while you still can on appliances only at Lowe's. Offer valid through 11/23. Exclusions apply. See store for details.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now. So do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand. Finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Every week, hundreds of thousands of fans download the popular Stuff They Don't Want You to Know podcast to get to the bottom of popular culture's biggest myths. And now, the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book separates conspiracy fact from conspiracy theory, from biological testing to our endless fascination with the Kennedy assassination. This holiday season, give the gift that explains the unexplainable. The Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book. Available now. Order at StuffYouShouldReadBooks.com or wherever you buy your books.
A construction site is a noisy place where things can be misinterpreted. We need to redo the drywall. It can sound a lot like,
rewire the hall? They're firing Paul?
Wait, what did I do? Or even,
Install a waterfall! Whose dumb idea was this?
be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk, from the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building. Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, how about that drywall?
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
Are algorithms controlling our lives? Red Pilled America continues its deep dive into that question. In part 2, we tell the story behind the creation of Netflix's algorithm and how they used it to do the seemingly impossible. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. I tell you what, short timing at this segment, so we'll still be gathering those calls. So if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. One update that I think we can squeeze in right here is that City of El Paso has voted against the statement of intent to increase tax rates by the Texas Gas Service today. According to our news partners over there at KFOX 14, all council members voted against it. They would had to do it by November 28th, so getting a little bit ahead of that deadline there. Texas Gas Service had requested an $18 million overall impact of revenue to consolidate its West Texas service area, and would have gone up about $4.39 monthly, or $10.46 monthly for commercial incidences. Outgoing City Rep Peter Swersbein said, "Seems like this proposed consolidation, the overwhelming burden is going to be on El Pasoans and El Paso ratepayers and El Paso taxpayers. We are being discriminated against and being forced to pay more than the other communities in Texas." Cassandra Hernandez also saying, "Our duty is to protect El Paso gas payers, and this is incredibly unfair. I'm disappointed in Texas Gas." So this is one of those things that will go towards, some of those rate cases. And so probably not the end of it, but if there's been a pattern that it's not a rule, and cloudy crystal ball time definitely applies here, but probably come back, go through some of the regulatory things and come up about half that much. I think that's generally how it'll go here. Definitely with some of the electric rates, I know that, but time will tell here, but it's my expectation for the moment. But in any case, got to take that next break to make the top of the hour here. So we are taking those phone calls. We'll be getting into them top of the next hour here. And if you want to get on the line, that number again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still a lot of stop traffic in the lower valley on Loop 375 southbound from North Loop Drive down to Pan American. It's a 15-minute delay, mostly stop traffic there from an earlier accident. Gateway Boulevard westbound at Westmoreland, a crash there blocking the right turn only lane. Zaragoza at Sunfire, an accident reported, and an earlier crash still slowing traffic eastbound Trowbridge at Reynolds. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com.
You wash your hands, you brush your teeth, but what about the nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, and germs. And it's why cleaning your nose, the body's air filter, is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons: sinusitis, colds, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Over 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying, "Best product I've ever used," and "Amazing, I love my Navage." Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less, but the biggest payoff is improved health. Navage is good personal hygiene and can help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio. News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio. I'm Chris Coraggio. A new report says the parents of the young man arrested for the Colorado shooting also had criminal histories. Anderson Aldrich is reportedly the grandson of outgoing San Diego Assemblymember Randy Vopel, who just lost re-election. Aldrich, who was reportedly arrested last year for threatening to kill his mother, no charges were filed in that case. The Denver Gazette says he was actually born Nicholas Brink, but changed his name before he turned 16. The report says his parents were Laura Vopel, who has been arrested for arson, and Aaron Brink, an MMA fighter turned porn star, who has a criminal history of burglary and parole violations. The couple separated a year after the suspect was born. The White House is extending the student loan repayment pause. President Biden said in a video posted on Twitter that he's confident in his student debt relief plan, despite Republican officials trying to block it. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona is pushing the pause to June 30th instead of the start of the new year. Some inclement weather could impact your Thanksgiving travel plans. Meteorologist John Weatherby has the forecast.
Wednesday's Thanksgiving travel. No real problems at any of the major airports. We've got showers across South Florida. We've got some showers up into Texas. We have a developing winter storm over the northern Rockies. But hopefully everybody will be at their destination by the time we get to Thursday, because Thursday's got a much bigger problem, a much wider scope, as a new storm begins to form over South Texas, portions of the lower Mississippi Valley, up almost all the way to Chicago, with locally heavy rainfall and some embedded thunderstorms. There'll be some real travel delays across the south in this area, especially along the Texas coast. That eventually Friday, Saturday will work its way to the East Coast and cause more delays at the end of the holiday weekend.
Global soccer icon Cristiano Ronaldo is leaving Manchester United. Ronaldo and the English club agreed to a mutual termination following an interview in which he criticized the club and its manager. He's now free to join another club immediately. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio. It turns out the traditional Thanksgiving dishes may not be the favorites. Turkey is in shorter supply this year thanks to the avian flu, but that may be just fine, as a study finds nearly 30% of American adults don't like turkey anyway. The Vacationer, an online travel guide, surveyed Americans across the country. Cranberry sauce is number one in the dislike list, while turkey is number two. Green bean casserole is number three. The nation's Christmas tree is now at the White House. First Lady Jill Biden and her 2-year-old grandson Beau received the 18.5-foot concolor fir at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue yesterday. The Sheeler family of Evergreen Acres Christmas Tree Farm in Auburn, Pennsylvania, presented this year's tree. Nearly 5 decades after Bruce Lee's death, a new research paper suggests he didn't die from brain swelling. In a new study published in the Clinical Kidney Journal, a group of kidney specialists in Spain proposed that the martial arts icon died from drinking too much water. The study says Lee had multiple risk factors for a condition that may have caused his kidneys' inability to excrete excess water. Lee's sudden death has been at the center of much speculation throughout the years since he died. Some fans have theorized the 32-year-old was assassinated, while a 2018 book suggested he died from heat exhaustion. Mazda will invest more than $10.5 billion in electric vehicles. It also wants EVs to be up to 40% of total global sales by the start of next decade. The previous EV sales target was 25%. Mazda is the latest car company to make such an announcement. It follows names like Honda and Toyota. Director James Cameron says Avatar: The Way of Water must be the third or fourth highest grossing film in history to break even. Speaking to GQ magazine, Cameron said the budget was so massive, he told Disney and 20th Century Studios it may be the worst business case in movie history. The original Avatar ranks as the highest grossing film ever at $2.9 billion. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped to you at prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 45% off any order during Blindster's Black Friday sale. Hurry, sale ends November 27th. Blindster.com.
The hugs, the joy, even the sleepless nights. Whatever you get from parenthood, you always want to give your children everything. And the UNest app makes it easy to save for their future. The UNest app puts smart investing tools right in the palm of your hand. Plus, you'll grow your UNest account with every purchase you make from over 150 top brands like Disney Plus and DoorDash. Start building your child's financial future. Download the UNest app from the App Store or Google Play. See terms and conditions at unest.co. That's UNEST.co.
Want to know what I like best about high school sports? I love watching my son run on the field. I love seeing him smile when he high-fives his teammates. I love seeing his eyes light up when his team scores a goal. I love the fact that since he's been playing high school sports, he's making better decisions. And I love knowing that high school sports have never been safer. Why? Because coaches have more information than they've ever had. Training techniques are more sophisticated, and equipment has never been more advanced. Playing high school sports isn't just safe. It's still the best way to give your teenager a healthy head start in life. And that's something I really love.
This message about the value of high school sports is presented by the Texas University Interscholastic League and the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in. However you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk as Mondo Moncada is there. Yo to you as well. Some others chiming in, including those dropping those likes and reacts. Do have Ion Graham, James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Amber Banda, Flaco Jimenez, Ravi Flores, Monica Cervantes, and more. Pat the comment. You don't have to like, you don't have to react, you don't have to do any of that, but you want to stay informed about some of the big issues and talk about them that affect us here in the Borderland, you better be tuned in. All I can really say there. RJ, in reference to the turkey trot here, saying, curious, has the participation trophy generation grown old enough now that adults want a medal even if they finish last? Okay, it's not exactly a race. I mean, yes, there are those that are going to do the race, but I would say that the 5K, particularly in this day and age, is an accomplishment of itself here. Reminded of the line from Starship Troopers actually here, that which is given has no value. So sure, if you just started it and you got it, that would be one thing, and not as much. But honestly, it's been a trend for a while now that those completing some kind of challenge will receive a recognition for it. So I wouldn't call it a participation trophy. I mean, you do have to, I think, finish it, and if not, well, I wouldn't want it anyway if that were for me. And Eric McNabb adding that the race is fun even in the cold. I mean, there's the fun walk with it as well. So getting out and doing something, I would consider it an accomplishment for those who would be willing to agree with that. Just as a note on the whole participation trophy thing as being tagged as one of those generations that grew up with it, let me just put it this way. We weren't the ones asking for the participation trophies. They would be given to us, and we're kind of like, okay, cool. Why are we doing this? That was about the ego of the parents involved in those situations at those times, because they couldn't stand little Jimmy or Billy or Susie or Fernando or whoever not getting something for it. So I'm just saying, if you're putting baggage on that here, don't put it on the kids in those equations. Put it on the adults who are demanding that their kids get it here. Like, sure, there may be some down the line psychological things that happen because of it, but don't blame the kids for that one there. Anyway, you, of course, have those phone lines open right now. If you want to get on the line, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, it's good that the gas company monopolies rate increase wasn't approved, but it eventually will be. I'll guarantee you that. These guys and gals who sit on these commissions over there in Austin are creatures of the swamp of lobbyists and people who give money to these politicians. It's the business crowd. That's who runs these commissions in Texas. And, at one time I saw some statements that the electric company, which is also a monopoly, isn't that capitalism great? That monopoly capitalism is just fantastic. They're owned by J.P. Morgan, one of the biggest capitalist plutocrats ever. Consolidated, Andrew Carnegie's steel empire to create U.S. Steel, consolidated the electrical industry, General Electric, bailed out the United States government at one time. I mean, big bucks, Isn't it nice to have a monopoly? Anyway, I was saying that they earn about 8% on their money. Now, that's a great return for a monopoly. It really is. There's a financial rule called the Rule of 72, and it tells you how long it takes something to double. And the formula, you take 72 as your nominator, and you divide that by the rate of return that you're getting on your money. In this case, 8. So 72 by 8 divided by 8 comes out to 9. That means that they would double their money every 9 years at 8% in a monopoly. So this is what's wrong with our country. One of the things that's wrong, this is just a couple of the industries, and the big players, there's not that many players. In pharmaceuticals, in agriculture, in energy, in telecommunications, in insurance, just a few really, really big players, and they give really, really big bucks to these politicians, to write the laws that they want. And so we really ought to be using our taxes, the taxes that they pay, to buy into these companies so we can start making some money. And so next time they ask for rate increases, fine, you can have it, but it's going in shares of stock in the name of the community, and then let's get people on the board of directors so that we can start moving them into clean energy, into solar energy, into geothermal, into, taking waste. We should be able to take our waste, our crap, and turn it into energy. I mean, we've been to the moon and back. We've split the atom. We can do all kinds of stuff, but they just don't find a way to do stuff that helps the average Joe Blow. See, they find the stuff that helps the Elon Musk of the world, the big bucks, the people who give them big bucks. The average Joe Blow gets screwed, and that's why there's so much dissatisfaction with government. They're seen as failing the people. And again, you got a duopoly here, just two parties controlling the whole thing. And there's a lot of good people there on the Democratic side. I've seen them, I'm very impressed by them. The Democratic Party, at the very least, kind of looks like America. It's got a lot of women, a lot of blacks, a lot of Hispanics, unlike the Republican Party, which is nothing but a big tent of white old people with money, and then the losers over there in the South, those folks are still with them. And then the people who live out there and fly over America, who aren't connected really to the cities and what's happening in the pulse of what of the cities where the things are happening, where the innovation is, where the universities are. So we need to change the way we're doing things, because it's just not working. And the Republicans taking over, they ain't going to do nothing except investigate, and it's not going to come to anything. They're not going to. Let's see if they can come up with bills to bring down inflation, to expand health care, to end poverty in America, to end homelessness in America. But don't hold your breath.
I mean, generally don't here, but I will say this, as much as maybe said that, sure, cities tend to be centers of innovation, but I think that phrase flyover country and the dismissive nature that comes along with it is said as its own peril. And so dismissively like that, those flyover countries is where, as much as innovation is good and is important, I bet you'd be a lot more unhappy if you weren't getting the food that is produced by those flyover countries here. And sure, it may not be densely populated, but to say that it's unimportant here would be a massive mistake in my estimation. And even those places, heck, sometimes El Paso is crammed into those things. Sure, we are one of in the top 25 now, I think we are, largest cities in the country, though that's a little bit of a misnomer, because we're also one huge municipality as opposed to the municipalities that are surrounded by smaller municipalities in a lot of other places. But we have still innovation coming here. I got the chance to visit Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, El Paso, their dental clinic the other day. And the amount of innovation that's actually happening there is fascinating to me personally anyway, because they're actually, it's not exactly like a nonprofit or a serving of the poor community kind of clinic there, but it is intended to be a lower cost one, and that you are being worked on by students who have appropriate training. I've no doubt about that, but you're trading your time for your money. Basically, you're going to spending a bit more time, so you won't get charged as much to be a part of their process. And the innovation they are doing there puts it definitely in some of the top dental institutions coming about, or at least in the state, if not the country. And that's, I actually got to go and see into their room where they deal with the dentures, dental prosthesis, those kind of things. And they're not dealing with the gum or the gummy or the molding of the teeth that way. They're dealing with scanning and 3D printing, either from, CNC style machines where they mold out, they actually carve out the material, or from resin 3D printers. And so the innovation that happens even in places like this, and oftentimes, yeah, we're not exactly like Minnesota, but we often get clumped into the idea of flyover country or stopover, where people or concerts, tours just stop here. And that's the only reason they come here is because it's the halfway point as opposed to an actual destination. And that's why I say you classify it as that at your own peril, because you can be missing a lot of things that happen in the meantime, and definitely the importance of it here. So, let's take at least one more call before we hit that next break right now. If you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544 KTS1 and KTSM, and now full up on the line there. But do have at least one more call here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Jorge. I wanted to call and wish everybody there in the listening audience at KTSM a happy Thanksgiving, because we have much to be thankful for. We know now that the American populace is reliant on the democratic process that is constitutionally laid, and is choosing those individuals who they deem responsible in those aspects that were founded in those days when they were founded. And for that, if nothing else, let us be thankful that decisions that are made are decisions that reflect the values of the individuals who are making those decisions.
Absolutely. Well, happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Thanks for the point in the call. I appreciate it there. All right, we'll go ahead and take that next break off of that one there. Nice note to end the segment on. If you want to get on the line again, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Southbound on Loop 375, still very slow traffic in the Low Valley between 10 Gateway and Pan American Drive. 15-minute delay. As you come around the curve on I-10 eastbound at Sunland Park, stay in the right lane. Road debris, a ladder reported in the left lane. 2 vehicles stopped in the right lane, blocking the right side on North Desert Boulevard at Trans Mountain. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped to you at prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 45% off any order during Blindster's Black Friday sale. Hurry, sale ends November 27th. Blindster.com.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Water heating can account for up to 25% of the energy consumed in your home. Save money and energy and improve the comfort of your home by turning down the temperature of your water heater from 140 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It can save you up to 22% on your energy bill annually. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code TRIAL at checkout. That's harrys.com, code TRIAL. Enjoy.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Pardon me. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there. And, of course, you can also get on that phone line if you want to at this point during the program. It is open, talking about those things affecting us here in the Borderland and reasonable follow-ups, of course. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. At least wanted to follow up on something I mentioned at the top of the show here. The Hope Border Institute, in their Frontera dispatch that they put out frequently enough here, pointing out that by their numbers, it was actually about 900 across the river and turned themselves into U.S. officials hoping to apply for asylum after being initially denied admittance under the recent Title 42 expansion. So some of that confusion I was referring to at the top of the show, definitely a part of it here. But one of the more interesting things that they're also checking on is some interesting, Mexican side of the discussion whenever it comes to border control, specifically with the Mexican President AMLO, López Obrador, meeting with the governors of Oaxaca, Chiapas, and Veracruz, which is not any of the ones near us. Very specifically, it is some of their border states in the areas of Guatemala and Belize, saying that they are actually looking at doing more coordination between state and federal authorities to advance plans for migration and development on Mexico's border with Guatemala and Belize, quoting from the Frontera dispatch there. And further on, saying there that people in the move in Mexico are reporting that highway patrol, checkpoints, and raids have all increased, and that government officials have broken up a number of small migrant caravans that have been attempting to form. So very interesting potential developments there. Of course, whether or not it's considered official or not, at least discussions going on. Yeah. AMLO, hugs, not bullets. I mean, that would be my preference, but yeah, it's a interesting situation there. But I mean, they're referencing some of those reporting, including from the Mexico News Daily, which not an outlet I'm terrifically familiar with, but that would be an interesting move on their part here. We'll have to kind of keep our eye on that. Let's go back to those phone lines now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Stephen on the east side with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
So I wanted to go back to the energy discussion, and it is something that is going to affect all of us when it comes to our cars and our heating our homes in the winter, and then the air conditioning during summer.
Yeah.
And the price is going up. It affects everyone a lot. The inflation is hitting everybody, and of course, when your monthly bills go up, it's going to hurt a lot of people. And Raul's right about one thing, is that it is the little guy who gets hurt. And one of the reasons why people get hurt is because the government regulates the energy industry so heavily that it really does stifle innovation. It makes things a lot harder for the people who are trying to come up with new ideas and innovate things. Now, the government could do some beneficiary things in terms of investing money, research and development, and those kinds of things in technologies that do have kind of promise. I know a lot of countries around the world are doing nuclear energy, like thorium reactors and those kinds of things, which are much better than the old school nuclear reactors, because when you've got nuclear waste that takes thousands of years for that radiation to decrease, then that's a much more difficult thing to deal with than if you've got some radioactive waste that is going to get better in a few decades or 100 years. So that makes a huge difference. But remember that is not capitalism. When the government is heavily regulating and in charge of what can and can't be done, then that isn't really capitalism. There's a different word for that. I'm surprised Raul doesn't know exactly what that is, but it is not capitalism when the government is the one who's in charge of allowing or not allowing certain things and heavily regulating things. And that's where the corruption comes in, because if the government is regulating everything anyone can do, then that's when the lobbyists come in. And because the lobbyists are the ones who are going to pay the government officials or whatever they want to get what they need done, because it's the government who controls what they can and can't do. So that's not capitalism. But another issue with that is the environmentalism. It's the environmentalists who didn't want fracking done. And fracking is actually what has allowed the United States to decrease our carbon footprint in the world, because natural gas burns much cleaner than coal and oil. So it was actually natural gas that allowed the United States to become much, much cleaner. The environmentalists tried to stop that, so we were able to do that in spite of the environmentalists. And the nuclear issue is the environmentalists too. They think we can run everything on unreliable wind and solar, which is very difficult. Solar requires a lot of rare earth minerals and different things as well. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to figure it out in spite of the environmentalists who don't really know anything about energy and the environment. They actually do more harm than good a lot of the time. I'm sure a lot of them have a good intention, but they're propagandized, so they actually make some things worse.
I guess I kind of feel about it that way, like I do about some vegans. I'm not trying to pick on vegans here, but those that insist that, well, it's less impact on animals and those kind of things, and not understanding that if everyone ate exactly the way that some of the major ways it's put out there are, like, a lot of people would die. And I'm not even talking from diet ways, but there's just not the ability to produce the food at that level, at that scope here. It was an interesting stat put to me on the hundreds of millions of tons of chicken that are produced every year, even just in this country, if not globally, that by improving technology, such as much as it's not the most ideal thing, but the whole mechanically separated chicken and being able to use different ways of it and use what was waste products, that has reduced the actual waste of chicken and therefore made it so that less is having to be used than pretty much all vegan efforts combined, is some of the estimates I've seen there. And so point I'm trying to bring up there is that, sure, it's good to have, things and values that you want to work for, but also try to look at them in terms of reality and what the actual impact of it is. Because the fact of the matter is that, yes, a lot of the stuff I see come out about, say, solar. Let's just talk about solar specifically. We are the Sun City after all. We have quite a lot of potential for it here with more than 300 days of sunshine a year. And yet the big problem that comes with saying we're going to be all solar is the storage methods. The fact of the matter is that the storage methods, as much as there has been notable efforts by, it kind of was being mentioned there, like, Tesla, Powerwalls, and big increases in battery technology, it's not quite there without being exorbitantly expensive. It could not be done by the vast majority of households, even if some have made the transition. I've seen some houses with the Powerwall, just to name a specific company in mind, and sure, they are good and interesting things. Some of the policies in place to speak about that as well in our region don't really allow for the full ideal implementation. If I was going to do it, I would want it to be where you're sure grid tied, using it while you need to be, and otherwise selling it back to them while having battery backups. And that's not, to my understanding, everyone I've talked to about this, including professionals in the field, that you can't really do that the way it has to be done here in Texas. For the large part is, if you want to be grid tied at all, if the grid goes down, even if the sun is shining, you also go down, because you can't then really switch to your battery backup. So unideal. That's the best explanation I have. If someone else has a better one for me, I'd love to talk with you about it, because our implementation I'd be interested in exploring. But that's kind of on the house by house scale. But on the utility scale, yes, there are a couple of experiments in our area I'm aware of, including a 1 megawatt battery that's, I think, being still tested up at NMSU. But that's a test and maybe some proof of concept. But the fact of the matter is that the implementation of it on scale, unable to produce and then have the backup for enough if you do enter those, for wind, non-windy days, solar, cloudy days, or at night, etc. You got to be able to time shift the production of the energy to the use of the energy. And they've come up with some pretty crazy sounding ideas, such as just stacking up blocks using a crane, essentially as putting it in the mode where you're expending the energy to lift up the blocks and then turning it into a dynamo to then lower down the blocks using the potential gravitational energy, basically as a probably not anywhere near exactly efficient exchange, but it is an exchange, or one test I'm aware of happening out of, I think, some of the Nordic countries, of a massively insulated sand repository that could store up to like thousands of degrees and then turn that back into energy with the hot air, those kind of things. So complicated and a little bit out there at the moment, I guess is what I'm getting to. Whereas, I mean, we've seen what happened in Germany, to go a little bit further afield, just with this example here of them having to, they're ready to decommission a few nuclear plants. And basically, given the situation they're looking at this winter and the whole geopolitical situation with Russia here. Now, I'm not trying to call out that argument, but just as the example here with their energy needs, they've had to essentially delay that because they realize they need the power.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to burn wood this winter to try to heat up their homes. But yeah, you're right. The solar issue is like, there's actually, I don't know if you've heard of this, there's a limit on the number of people on each block or each street that can put solar on their house, because if every single house had solar, then you get this huge amount of output in the middle of the day when no one's home.
Exactly.
When no one really needs it. And then at night, you've got nothing. So you've got these huge swings that isn't very useful for the energy grid. I think the U.S. would have been very well served, a decade or two ago, of investing in nuclear technology. We would have been able to, I think, get ahead if we would have done something like that and had things rolling on that. But yeah, like I said, the environmentalists and the over regulations and obviously you do want some regulations, but the reason why nuclear is so expensive is because people fear it so much that the regulations are out of control. And then that is what makes it very, very expensive. Meanwhile, it actually, in history, per megawatt is the safest form of energy that has ever been invented. So that's where we are.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, if you want to talk about a shovel ready, so to speak, kind of project that would be able to meet the energy needs, yeah, nuclear is, to the moment, the way to go, even if there is some hopefully interesting work that will be progressing. I get that if you want to, outside of Stranger Things terminology, the Department of Energy, that's been one of their bigger mandates, is to figure out that kind of level. And they've had some progression, but it's not there yet, obviously. But nuclear, the biggest problem there is it's the mother of all NIMBY issues. Not in my backyard. Everyone would love to be hooked up to the energy coming out of a nuclear plant. No one wants to be anywhere near one, and why that is why it's problematic and why there wasn't that investment, among other things.
I think you'd be surprised. I think if the town that lives next to a nuclear plant and they knew it was safe and they knew they would get very inexpensive electricity, I think some people might move there, especially at the rates that sometimes we're going to be getting in the future.
The crypto miners, maybe, for sure, if that's still going to be able to stick around, but we'll see. It's an interesting point you bring up there, particularly some of the new designs, the thorium reactors, that they'll think will take one hell of a public outreach campaign, but yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. All right. Have a good evening.
You too as well. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. All right. Tell you what, with that, we'll go ahead and take that next break right now. We got more callers on the line, but if you want to get on there, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy and soon-to-be Speaker of the House was in El Paso today. McCarthy is calling for Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to resign, threatening an impeachment inquiry if Mayorkas doesn't. McCarthy, with a House Republican delegation, will investigate the actions of DHS pertaining to the migrant crisis here in the border. And as he toured the border, the camped-out migrants along the border in Juarez shouted across the way to the group. McCarthy will become the House Speaker when Republicans take over in January. And a manhole leaked wastewater along a roadway near UTEP and the U.S.-Mexico border yesterday. The wastewater ran down about half mile south of the Spur 1966 interchange to the Rio Grande, according to El Paso Water. Crews with the utility removed a large blockage from the wastewater line comprised of wipes, concrete, and rags. No direct blame was placed for the blockage, but recent posts on social media show people coming up through manholes downtown. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On the 54 Patriot northbound at the Hercules Avenue exit, an accident there is blocking the exit ramp. That's exit 26. Gateway West at McRae Boulevard. El Paso Fire showing up at an injury accident there. In the lower valley, it's still stopped traffic. 15-minute backup between the 10 Gateway and Pan American Drive. I-10 eastbound Trans Mountain to the Patriots at 10-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. Our brief warm-up will leave us with a gorgeous day for your Wednesday to get those Thanksgiving preparations finished up or at least underway. As for those temperatures, we will be in the mid-60s for your Wednesday and then about a 10-degree drop for Thanksgiving as a cold front swings in. Look for increasing winds on Wednesday and possibly a chance for some winter-like weather overnight Thursday. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped to you at prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 45% off any order during Blindster's Black Friday sale. Hurry, sale ends November 27th. Blindster.com.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now, so do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand. Finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Are algorithms controlling our lives? Red Pilled America continues its deep dive into that question. In part 2, we tell the story behind the creation of Netflix's algorithm and how they used it to do the seemingly impossible. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media plans and places. Sorry, reading about a plant right now. Social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of interesting conversation going on in all those places, including Raul Francisco Amaya, Eric Von Holstein-Rathlow, Eric McNabb, RJ over on the YouTube there, and more. So if you want to get your 2 cents in there, certainly can, including Mondo Monconda on the Twitch. Appreciate that. And Louis Pinato, if I didn't say that already. And dropping those likes and reacts that we do appreciate over there. Ion Graham, James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Amber Banda, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. The reason I was reading about a plant is because I was reminded of Eric Von Holstein-Rathlow said nuclear power is clean. Sure, no emissions coming from it, but boy, the waste that it does create it's a doozy. Because I've actually visited the site of, but I've been in what's I didn't realize was called or considered the southeastern New Mexico nuclear corridor. I visited and had reason to professionally go to some of the production facilities out there, and it actually reminded me of the other part the Department of Energy does, and that's the U.S.'s nuclear weapons, which I suppose it makes sense, but you don't necessarily think about that with Department of Energy, at least not offhand, at least not for me. And so that Waste Isolation Pilot Plant, or WIPP, W-I-P-P for short, is near-ish Carlsbad, about 25, 30 miles away from it. And it's think a former salt mine, if I'm not mistaken. It's meant to store the waste for 10,000 years because the fun phrase transuranic radioactive waste, which is just a fun phrase to say. Yeah, it's a doozy to have to deal with there. So that's why, sure, some of the newer plants, some of the ones that are, quote unquote, meltdown proof. I mean, there have been designs that I've been aware of that since I was first reading about this into some kind of different formulations of it as opposed to rods and potential meltdowns, essentially more like a kind of almost the way that like milk is concentrated, and that it's not a mix of oils and water. They're a suspension of them, almost like a suspension of nuclear materials in an otherwise inert substrate to make it so that it puts out the energy but like can't reach critical mass to melt down. Really technical, I know, super in the weeds. I remember reading this in a Popular Mechanics back in like late 90s, early 2000s. Yes, I was a precocious kid. I don't know what to tell you. But Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying otherwise, that France recycles 90% of their nuclear waste. For some reason, we bury ours. Again, the NIMBY part of it. Oh, I don't want to have to deal with this waste. Get rid of it there. Anyway, it's an interesting one, an interesting situation out there. So, but Raul Francisco Maya saying that a nuclear power can't get any private investments, according to the Cato Institute. Construction time and storing spent nuclear waste and decommissioning old plants are big impediments. I guess I feel about it similarly to probably in the order of magnitude of funding anyway, whenever it comes to the potential start for the rare earth metals mining that has been burgeoning in our region for decade more, probably coming up on 2, if not even more than that. But the startup costs, it's not like you can like start small and get bigger. You have to be big at the start. And that is money. That is serious money. So, yeah, someone wants to get some investors together. I will throw in my literal 2 cents, and that's about what I got to contribute. But happy to talk about it. In any case, let's back to those phone lines on that point here. The number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much, Andrew. Just briefly wanted to discuss this ongoing border crisis.
No, certainly.
Yes. Well, as Minority Leader McCarthy was saying, we do need better solutions, and we're not going to gain any traction on this border crisis by getting rid of the migrant protection protocols and then Title 42, going by the way of the buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, MPP has been pretty much out of the place for, it's a little bit hard to pin down exact like sunset dates here because as it is just policy and not actually law, it's been essentially subject to wherever the administration wants to take it that day. And that was a trajectory set more or less at the start of the administration. So that one has been on the way out, if not out the door for a while already. But this whole Title 42 situation coming from that and the kind of bracing that we're seeing at the very least some, including city council and other local elected officials dealing with here is significant.
Yes, agreed. And like I said before, the solution is not opening more processing centers and opening hiring more people to process these individuals at a faster pace. I mean, we need more agents on the border, and we cannot. I know it takes a year for a border patrol agent to be hired from the day from the day his application starts or accepted till the day he graduates from the academy. Yeah, that's about a 1-year process. I understand that, but people could do better instead of spending money on hiring 85,000 new IRS agents. That money could be invested in border security.
I mean, I guess the way I feel about it is that I guess there's this idea of like not doing the perfect squeeze of if you get too many agents and then you don't have the need much there anymore. Given modern circumstances, I don't think that's a problem you're going to have. But I think the real concern then is, okay, what if you have to lay some off? But frankly, I'm just going to put this out there that I will be fine saying that we're going to do some reduction in forces if it's warranted. Rather, very, very much rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, which is the sum total of the situation I feel like we've been in for, pick a point in the recent past and link it between then and now.
Yes. Well, laying off agents, well, I don't think it would come to that because basically they are categorized as GS 1911 status, which means that's law enforcement grade, mandatory retirement at age 57. But you could, going through the Border Patrol Academy is pretty much can get you transferred into other federal law enforcement agencies. Whether it be the Sky Marshal program or with the exception of the FBI, but almost any other agency you have to go through some in-service training. So it's really not that much of a problem there. But anyway,
fair enough.
I digress, and I send the mic back over to you.
Yeah, I appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you.
And RJ asking, what world did I wake up in? Again, I'm not saying that's the situation or that would ever be the situation that we'd be looking at. Well, there's not enough for them to do here, like, the old, Maytag repairman kind of stereotype sitting around twiddling their thumbs. But I feel like that's maybe the reason that this hasn't been majorly invested in, even in previous administrations. Let's be honest. That has not been it's also not a short-term solution because it takes that lead time to get up there. So, yeah, I think that I got to imagine that's some of the compunction that we've seen across administrations or across sides of the aisle in dealing with those funding levels and dealing with the actual staffing levels of it. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, let's get to at least one more call here. This segment here, we do have Frankie and Mesilla on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right, way to go. That beautiful, beautiful evening here in Mesilla, the setting sun in the west. Fuchsia colors, beautiful oranges, some purples, some blues, and just absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, wonderful news I know is not going to make the likes of Andrew and Kevin and Steven and everybody else happy. But the Supreme Court ruled against the Donnie Dotard. He has to unass his taxes.
Mm-hmm.
To the committee, right? Along with everything else that's going on with this guy. Now, here's the upshot on this thing. It's not just the general people. The upshot is the Republican Party, whatever's left of it, realizing this guy is persona non grata. That's French for a creep, all right? So this is wonderful news, which I just wanted to share with you and everybody else out there in the Southwest border region. He is going down. That's what I want to say.
Okay, I get what you're saying there. I think that might be a step too far, calling that. I feel like we've been hearing about this step is the one that leads to his downfall for a minute now. And sure, the whole tax returns things has been its own level of controversy. But I got to say, without having seen it yet, I would be frankly surprised if this is the thing that, quote unquote, takes him down here, whether or not it's a larger movement. I mean, ever since before the inauguration, before his nomination even, there were forces within the Republican Party that, the whole never Trumper wing, or those that kind of held their nose and said, all right, fine, if he's winning and bringing in more people, we'll work with him. So I think that more than anything, those two factors of winning and bringing in more, as opposed to only holding on to what you got or keeping less and less portions of that, will be the biggest determinant of his future success or securing the next nomination, so to speak, within the party here. Because, let's be honest, the guy has said previously that his own net worth kind of fluctuates based on his opinion of how things are going for him. So whether or not the tax returns reveal anything shocking or surprising, I'm positive, I have no doubt in my mind that a lot will be written about it. But how much actual impact that will have is, I'm not sure that it's actually going to be a blockbuster moment in reality, I guess.
Well, I hear that. But let me just say this. Throughout history, the forces of righteousness overcome all the negative evilness that any human can possibly imagine. That's what I want to say. And don't forget to keep me on the phone, because that blasted radio with all that stupid static and stuff.
Fair enough here. Well, thanks for the point in the call, and do appreciate it.
Okay, Andrew. Thank you.
All right, here. A quote comes to mind from Martin Luther King Jr., "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." I think that ends up being true, but it doesn't just happen on its own. Definitely takes a lot of individuals involved in it. So with that, I think we got time for one more quick call on the line. I think we can squeeze in one more here. We do have Eric on the east side with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Oh, hello there. Yeah, I was going to say, if conservatives and Republicans are that concerned about brown immigrants coming into the country, they really should take climate change a lot more seriously and stop blindly taking the word of the Kochs and Alex Jones and Fox News. Like, if people are saying that, they know better than NASA, the Pentagon, every major economy, every major bank in the world, about climate change and its on its expected impact on the future generations of people, like conservatives, they're bought by the oil companies and the oil lobbyists. Trump literally put oil lobbyists as the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, and the head of the Secretary of State was a literal oil executive. Like Republicans are entirely bought by oil companies. That's why conservative media and conservative talk radio, they have to push these conspiracy theories about there being a legitimate scientific debate on what can be done, on what should be done. Like, we need to take action now for the greater good of future generations, and Republicans only care about the quarterly profits of these oil companies that have them bought and writing their energy policies. Literal lobbyists, they're always appointed to the heads of these agencies whenever Republicans are in power. And it's going to cause widespread suffering and death once climate change, once the impact, the refugee crisis that it will cause, impacts the global economy, far greater than COVID ever could have.
Okay, beyond the many other things you're saying about people that you disagree with and them being inherently evil in that place, I think you might be interested to know that you actually, as much as you rail against figures like this, that you're actually in agreement with Steve Bannon on this idea. Of course, I mean, he's a controversial figure in his own right and had a lot of very interesting theories, and I definitely do not always agree with this gentleman, but it's some interesting theories that were at least worth considering before making your own decision on, in my mind. And one of the ones that he was essentially more pushing more often than not, well, maybe not exactly pushing and stating outright, but in some of his writings and things that I've read of his that were focused on it when it comes to the border wall construction, on idea that was essentially focused on that, one of the reasons that he decided to work with the Trump administration on these points, even if he eventually got ousted and has had his own legal issues with the We Build the Wall effort, which don't think really met to those specifications he was looking at, is that he looked at situations like Syria, in which it could be argued that climate change or a changing climate in those regions caused the civil unrest that is now still upending that country to this day. And that the idea that any future climate changes, whether you call it, global warming, climate change, any of these big letter words, but that changes happening to climate could force there to be, mass migrations or other movements like that. And so that's one of the reasons that he put forth that he was very interested in seeing southern border wall construction, because he thought that there might be a potential there for, at the very least, greater unrest. And that was essentially the solution that he was pursuing going forward on that. So if you're saying that you're concerned about the climate change implications affecting on immigration, just that's what comes to mind there, at least immediately. And let me just say, anyone who puts profits, particularly short-term, not even just like quarterly profits, but short-term profits over anything else, probably is going to reap what they sow, because that leads to a couple of different situations. A, devaluing people, which frankly, any company that doesn't treat its workforce as the primary both expense as well as resource that they have, probably not going to have a good time in the long run. And that as much as there's been the talk for years about getting in the automated workforce, replacing all the burger flippers with robots, we super ain't there yet. And even if the ordering screens have become more commonplace, still end up having to talk with a person more often than not. But also, the idea that just not taking those costs in consideration is just a bad business move in most of the situations I've looked at there. So tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth. But as we get out of this, tell you what we got coming up for you on the show, as well as, well, preview what we got coming up for you even later on. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso, wrapping it up after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Delays on Loop 375 in the Lower Valley. 15-minute stop and go from North Loop Drive to Pan American Drive exit. On I-10 eastbound, Trans Mountain to the 54 Patriots, a 9-minute delay. I-10 eastbound at Hawkins, a stalled semi on the right shoulder. Injury accident Limerick at Montana. Take Wedgwood Drive or Yarborough to get around that. And an injury accident Zaragoza at Rojas. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped to you at prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 45% off any order during Blindster's Black Friday sale. Hurry, sale ends November 27th. Blindster.com.
If you run a business, we know how confusing it can be to evaluate all the different advertising options. And at iHeart, we're here to help. We're America's #1 audio company. #1 in radio, #1 in podcasting, digital radio, and much more. With all those insights and all those potential customers, we can help you find new and more efficient ways to grow your business. So reach out, let's chat, and learn more about how we can help your business find new growth. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
The holidays are a busy time. If you plan to go to someone's home this holiday season, please find out if there are firearms and if they are safely stored. Practicing safe gun storage protects our kids, prevents accidents, and keeps our firearms out of the hands of criminals.
To learn more about how to talk to others about safe gun storage, go to safegunstorage.texas.com for more information. And let's keep them safe, Texas. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Imagine buying a pair of sneakers and getting a soothing, gentle foot massage like you'd get during a relaxing pedicure just by walking. Skechers' new Massage Fit sneakers. Because Skechers, the comfort technology company, has designed a unique innovation that makes it feel like you're pampering your feet with a gentle massage in every step. The secret is Skechers' new patented wave technology on the sole that gently massages your feet while you're walking around. Find them for men and women at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
For the latest holiday tech gifts at great prices, Staples has you covered.
I need unbeatable prices on tech for everyone on my nice list.
Staples has you covered with the hottest tech gifts at Black Friday prices. Right now, the new Apple AirPods Pro 2nd generation is just $199 with the Staples Connect app. Plus, save up to $330 off HP, Lenovo, and Asus laptops. The latest tech gifts are at Staples, the working and learning store. Offers end 11/26. Limit 1 on AirPods. AirPods sale price $229 without app offer. In-store only.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you to everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Super out of time for this one. But the good news is, yeah, we're doing it again tomorrow. Tomorrow is our open line show, Wordy Wednesday. Okay, maybe not quite as impacting as a free-for-all Friday, but still, get the idea. We'll be talking about it and delving into all the issues. So for all of those that were, I don't think anyone's holding back their tongue today, but anyone who thought about it, your efforts are appreciated, and we'll get into it tomorrow. So want to take this time to thank again everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Seriously, these conversations give me life, make me want to keep doing this, and hopefully keep you all tuning in as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until tomorrow, then, that'll be our last show for the week as we'll then be off for the holiday. Stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso fires on the scene of a crash Gateway West at McRae. Delays on Loop 375 in the Lower Valley. It's a 17-minute stop-and-go delay from after the 10 Gateway all the way down to Padre. A stalled SUV is blocking the left shoulder, I-10 eastbound at Red, and an injury accident Limerick at Montana. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Remember the days of watching Saturday morning cartoons in your pajamas and eating a big bowl of cereal? We're bringing it back to the Alamo Drafthouse East on Saturday, December 3rd at 9 a.m. Bring the family to watch the holiday classic Elf. With free interactive props and an all-you-can-eat cereal bar. Plus, you can bid on great holiday gifts in a silent auction to benefit Mike D's Big Adventure. Tickets are $20 per person in advance at Eventbrite.com. For more information, visit Mike D's Big Adventure on Facebook.
I know him.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio. I'm Chris Coraggio. The Colorado shooting suspect's mother has 3 warrants out for her, and his father, a former MMA fighter and porn star, also has a criminal history. Jack Cronin has the latest.
22-year-old Anderson Aldrich's mother, 45-year-old Laura Vopel, reportedly the daughter of outgoing San Diego Assemblymember Randy Vopel, has 3 outstanding warrants in California and an arson charge out of Texas on her record. The Denver Gazette says Laura Vopel was sentenced to 5 years probation on the arson charge in Bexar County near San Antonio, but did not complete her probation in Texas. There are also 3 warrants open for her in Riverside County on charges of speeding, driving under the influence, and public intoxication. In June of last year, she called 911 to say her son was threatening to hurt her with a bomb and other weapons. The Denver Gazette also says the young man's father, former MMA fighter and porn star Aaron Brink, had a criminal history of probation violations and burglary. The suspect changed his name in 2016 from Nicholas Brink to Anderson Aldrich.
Former President Trump's tax returns will soon likely belong to the House committee. The Supreme Court has refused to block those records from being released to the Democrat-led panel. The court's refusal to intervene came after Chief Justice John Roberts stopped the process earlier this month. The House Ways and Means Committee wanted the documents. The court's ruling comes as Democrats are losing control of the House after the first of the year. 2 people are dead in a television news helicopter crash